Most people think the biggest sporting event in the world is the Olympics. But here's the weird part. There's another event that brings together thousands of athletes across dozens of sports from the most populated continent on Earth. And almost nobody talks about it. It's called the Asian Games. And in 2026, it might quietly become one of the most important competitions in global sports. So, why does this massive event feel invisible? And why does it actually matter way more than you think? Let's break it down. First, what even are the Asian Games? In theory, it's simple. It's a multi sport event for countries across Asia. Think Olympics, but only for Asian nations. In practice, Osan, it's huge. We're talking about over 40 countries, thousands of athletes, and a ridiculous number of sports. Some are Olympic sports like athletics, swimming, and basketball. But then it gets interesting. You also get regional sports, combat sports, and even things like esports. So while the Olympics tries to be global, the Asian Games goes deep into what Asia actually plays, and that makes it very different. Now, here's where most people get confused. Why does it even matter? Like, if it's not the Olympics, isn't it just a smaller version? Not even close. For many athletes, the Asian Games is actually more important than you'd expect. Because for a lot of sports, this is where careers are built. Let's talk about athlete development. You know how young players need big stages to prove themselves? This is one of the biggest. In countries like China, Japan, South Korea, India, winning a medal here isn't just nice. It can mean funding, recognition, and a fast track to the Olympics. In some cases, athletes become national stars overnight. So while global audiences might ignore it, inside these countries, it's a big deal. And then there's Olympic qualification. This is where things get really important. In theory, the Olympics is the final goal, but getting there? That's the hard part. And for many sports, the Asian Games acts like a gateway. Some events offer direct qualification spots. Others affect rankings, which decide who gets in. So when you watch the Asian Games, you're not just watching random matches. You're watching athletes fight for a place on the biggest stage in the world. This sounds simple. It isn't, because one result here can literally decide who goes to the Olympics and who stays home. Now let's talk about competition level, because this is where people seriously underestimate it. Asia includes some of the strongest sporting nations on the planet. China dominates in multiple sports. Japan is a lead across the board. South Korea is incredibly consistent. And then you've got rising nations like India pushing hard. So even though it's just Asia, the level is insanely high. In some sports, winning here is harder than winning at other international events. And then there's the scale. You know the type of event where there are too many sports to even keep track of? Yeah, this is one of those. From traditional Olympic events, to martial arts, to newer additions like esports. The Asian Games becomes this mix of tradition and modern competition, which makes it unpredictable. And honestly, way more interesting than people expect. So why doesn't everyone talk about it? Simple answer: global attention. The Olympics gets worldwide coverage. The Asian Games, mostly regional. If you're not in Asia, you probably don't hear about it much. But that doesn't make it small, it just makes it overlooked, an underrated giant. And that brings us back to 2026, because the next edition isn't just another tournament. It's another chance for thousands of athletes to prove themselves, to qualify, to break records, to represent countries with massive populations and even bigger expectations. And most people watching this video probably won't even realize it's happening. So here's the real takeaway. The Asian Games isn't trying to compete with the Olympics. It's building something different, a massive, high-level, continent-wide competition. That quietly shapes the future of global sports. And once you understand that, it's hard to ignore. So the next time the Asian Games comes around, pay attention. Because the athletes you see there today might be the ones dominating the Olympics tomorrow. And the real question is, which country is about to take over in 2026? If you want simple breakdowns of how these massive events actually work, hit subscribe, because there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than you think.